So let's get grounded in today's session. Let's show our gratitude to all the teachers whom we have learned from in our lives, from our schools or colleges, from our parents, and anybody who has contributed to our growth in our life. Let's show some gratitude. So the gratitude prayers you guys can repeat after me, or you can just close your eyes and you can hear, and then take 3 deep breaths. And then we'll chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra 10 to 15 times, and then we start in the session. So let's stay focused. We might have had a busy week, a lot of things, a lot of problems, a lot of like tiring situations in the last week. So let's put them all aside and let's focus on Gita for the next 60 minutes and see what we can learn. All right. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। So close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths. Let's chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Hare. So all of you can open your eyes. All right, so welcome to the last 2 sessions of resilience, navigating through obstacles in life. So far we have seen 3 verses about resilience, but in this last 2 sessions, I'm going to give you a lot of information from various sources of Gita, so that after 5 sessions, we go on to the next topic, which is controlling the mind. So I want everybody to, stay focused in the next 2 sessions. If all of you can attend the next 2 sessions, consecutive sessions, that would be really, really great and helpful. So I'm going to synthesize a lot of information from Bhagavad Gita, which various of our acharyas have mentioned. Okay, so this will be like, I'll be sharing some PowerPoint slides as well. So don't worry to, if you want to have a paper and pen and make notes, don't spend too much time, taking screenshots, stay focused on the session, try to absorb the content. And whomsoever has attended the session, I'll be sharing the slides as well. Okay. I'll send you the link for the slides. So stay focused, try to absorb as much as you can. All right. And if you want, if you have grab a paper or a pen and you can make some notes if you find some of the content useful. So let me share my screen. Sure. Yep. Can you guys see my screen? Just a second. Yep. All right. So let's start the session. So let's continue our journey on understanding resilience. So today's class is going to be mostly focused on, we all know what's resilience, right? The ability to come back to shape when there is a difficulty. So we'll have to be really, really clear with the definition of resilience in the first place. All right. So the ability to come back to shape when we are facing difficulties. So that's the definition of resilience. So how strong we are. So each and every time when we face difficulties, the nature will test us. Nature will test our patience. The nature will test our tolerance. The nature will test our acceptance to change. How much are we resisting ourselves from adapting to the particular change? So that is resilience. So at the time of resilience, most of us, we fail, we forget ourselves, we don't know how we react to things, we don't know how we reflect outside. So what decisions we should be making, we would be stuck in a particular situation. Not every situation needs to be, really, really life threatening, but you can come across challenging situations in life where you need to make a really, really good decision or a key decision. So we need to understand what exactly is our goal, what exactly is our purpose, and what is a good decision, what is a bad decision, how to make the best decisions in life. All right. So moving forward, how are we going to make best decisions in life? So what can we learn from Bhagavad Gita? So if you see, Bhagavad Gita is a book of choices. So Gita is not a commandment or a particular order that Krishna is giving Arjuna. So Arjuna is asking set of questions, and Krishna answers according to the question. Krishna doesn't come into the session, you know, preparing that, okay, this is what I'm going to speak. So depending on Arjuna's questions and Arjuna's confusions, Krishna helps him navigate through his thought process, and he creates a particular space for him inside his head where he can meditate on the meaning and the purpose of life. Okay. So if you see Bhagavad Gita, Krishna doesn't order Arjuna and say, this is what you have to think, what you're doing is this is right and this is wrong. Bhagavad Gita is not at all saying like what is right and what is wrong. So Bhagavad Gita is informative, but at the same time, what we need to understand is Bhagavad Gita is transformative. It teaches us how to think, right? So once we know how to think or how to reorient our lives when we have difficulties, then we would be able to proceed or progress towards our goal a lot easier. So if we understand the essence of how actually one must be thinking, this particular information or the framework which Krishna gives in Gita, which we call as Krishna consciousness, if we adopt to the way of thinking of Krishna consciousness, then what Krishna says is attaining success is a lot easier in life from a material point of view as well as spiritual point of view. So Krishna doesn't take away our free will, right? So we all have the potential to make good decisions. On a given day, we make the best decisions. At the same time, we all have definitely made bad decisions in our life. So we'll have to admit that particular fact. So what we have to understand is Gita empowers us with the best knowledge and best insights. So depending on what Krishna has instructed to Arjuna, depending on whatever questions Arjuna asked, so what we can learn, how we can shape up our lives. We are all in the battlefield of life, right? Life will put us in front of many tough or challenging situations. So how we can extract the juice out of Gita and apply these principles in our day-to-day life. So at the same time, your free will is not taken away from you. And Krishna doesn't say that this is what you have to think, but he gives Arjuna all the knowledge and then he says, do whatever you want. So when we know how to think, like how to reorient our thought process, say, for example, when we are facing a lot of difficulties, right? See that each and every difficulty is an opportunity for us to reorient our life in a better direction. So, what can we learn out of this particular difficulty? So, when we say difficulty or a problem, so they can be of different nature, right? So, let's see what problem which Arjuna is facing in Bhagavad Gita when he wants to fight. So what Arjuna says in chapter, so I'm taking selective verses from Gita where you can really understand the context of, what was the confusion, what was the solution, and what helped Arjuna build that resilience. So that solutions what Krishna offered is not particular to this scenario. We can apply all those in a very, very broader spectrum. So the wisdom of Gita has not changed for the last 5,000 years. So, chapter 1, text 30, if you observe, this is what Arjuna is saying. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself, and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. So, this is a typical problem, right? Like he's not able to understand what is happening around. He says he's forgetting himself. His mind is reeling. So, he's not able to get his mind back in shape. So if you see the next verse, so this is from chapter 2, text 19. And this is what Arjuna decides. In between, he speaks a lot, another 18 more verses. And then Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. He decided to walk away. So if you see this particular purports, see some of the lines, right? Like what our acharyas are saying, what Prabhupada is saying. So when Arjuna said this, this is exactly what his mood was. He completely surrendered to Krishna. He says, Krishna, you tell me what I should be doing. So we will be seeing that in the upcoming slides. So he says that I am surrendering to you and you are my spiritual master. Please guide me. I'm absolutely confused. And if you see the more words on the first purport, right? So it says, due to his impatience. So whenever we face any difficulties in life or whenever we come across tough situations, the first thing what we lose is patience. So due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield and he was forgetting himself, right? So if you see, it says he was forgetting himself on this account. So that's called like when we say, okay, I'm losing my mind. So basically, we don't understand our own position. So who we actually are. So we are not this body, we are this particular soul. So when at the time of knowing this concept is very, very easy, but applying this concept when you are facing difficulties, putting your emotions aside, that is what Krishna is teaching us in Bhagavad Gita. So he was forgetting himself on account of this weakness of his mind. So his mind becomes very, very weak. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. Too many attachments. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are often too affected by material conditions. So there is one saying, right? Like if we think that we can be happy by accumulating so much of possessions around us is as good as satisfying your hunger by tying up sandwiches all over your body. Just think deeply on this, right? So if you think that, okay, this particular person is going to make me happy, or this particular thing is going to make me happy, you are basically putting your happiness on some external people or some external things. You are objectifying your happiness. So basically, I'm not saying it is wrong, but this is what we actually tend to do in our day-to-day lives. So we all find an object of satisfaction. I keep repeating this in all my sessions. So we all try to find an object of satisfaction. So now what Gita says, what Krishna says to Arjuna in Gita is, you make me that object of satisfaction, and I will make sure that I'll give you whatever you want, materially and spiritually. We will go towards eternal happiness. So that's what Krishna says to Arjuna. So if you see this in this particular context, the problem which Arjuna is facing is Arjuna has completely given up on life. He has absolutely no clue what to do. He is confused. So he has a situation in front of him. He doesn't know how to deal with it. So that is how we understand. And some of the key points from the purports, right? If you read the purports, at least like 2 pages of Gita every day, taking one verse and seeing the purports, the essence of life, how to apply this particular principle is there in the purports. The purports are nothing but our Acharya's realizations. So consider them as our Acharya's direct letter to you. So when you have a particular difficulty, just open the Gita and read a particular page and particular purport. Just have that particular faith that, I am approaching Gita for, I'm trying to get a spiritual solution for my material problem, right? And you have that faith and you surrender, approach the Shastras like your mother. Shastras will reveal to you. You will get a realization. It'll be as if Bhagavad Gita is talking to you. It'll be as if the Acharya is communicating to you. You will have a lot of realizations. So that is the power of Bhagavad Gita. So moving on to the next slides. So how Arjuna made his choice, right? So now he had this particular problem, and we all know what he did at the end of the conversation. So 45 minutes of conversation with Krishna. And at the end of conversation, we all know Arjuna decided to fight. So if you see previously, he wanted to walk away. He was confused. So pretty much he was about to make the worst decision of his life. And after that 45 minutes of conversation, Arjuna went on to make the best decision of his life. But before he makes the best decision of his life, he makes four other decisions based on what Krishna has said. So this is the key learning for us. So any type of difficulties or any type of situations, we'll all have to make these four decisions first in our life. Make this as a ground rule or a foundation for your life. If you have made these four decisions in your life, then whatever decision you make at any circumstance, that will never be wrong. So, what are the foundational principles which Arjuna applied from Krishna's teachings? So, what changed? So, Arjuna, if you see, he embraced the problem. So, whenever we are facing a problem, you know, let's learn to stay with the problem. Let's not try to walk away, right? So, learn to stay with that particular problem and try to see what can I learn from here, right? If at all, the way I see problem personally is, definitely I'm facing a lot of problems, and just because somebody is spiritual doesn't mean they won't face problems. Everybody born in this world will face three type of problems. I've said this in my previous session: the problem through your own body and mind, okay, and the problems caused by other living entities, and the problems caused by natural calamities. Everybody who has taken birth, every living entity in this particular planet has to undergo all these three type of problems. So only thing, the way we find solutions, that will differ, because each and every problem which comes to me in my life, the way I see it is, okay, now what can I learn from this? Krishna has put me in this particular problem, in this particular situation, and is giving me this particular problem. So he wants me to learn something out of this, or he wants me to apply whatever I learned from my previous problems. Okay, so I might have gone through so many problems in life. right? So what am I learning from all those problems? Am I sitting after my problem is solved? We all tend to be happy, but are we sitting down and making notes of, okay, this is the problem I faced, this is how I reacted at first, and this is what has actually happened. Now go back to all your particular problems in life, whatever you have faced so far, and do an introspection and try to come up with, okay, this was the situation, this was my reaction, this was my decision, and this was my outcome. So when you do this, you will definitely have a lot of learning. So learning by experience after understanding Gita. So this is exactly what we need to understand from Bhagavad Gita. So your life is basically your particular experience, right? Now that you know this is what Krishna says in Gita, you can always go back. This doesn't mean you go back and start regretting and all the decisions you made. Don't get attached to whatever decisions you have made. You cannot change anything, right? So go back and see how beautiful. So whenever you are stuck in a particular problem, right? Just think through, okay, don't think ahead. Don't think how life will look like if the problem is solved. Just take a step back, disconnect yourself, right, from whatever is influencing your thought process, and see how far you have come in life, what all problems, what all situations you have overcome. Okay, so moving on. So based on Krishna's teaching, Arjuna made four decisions, which we'll be seeing in today's session. So what are the four decisions? What are the verses in Bhagavad Gita which drove him to make that particular decisions, how he reacted and how he acted? And as I said, if we make these four decisions first as a grounding or a founding principle of our life, then whatever decision you make, how much ever risk you take, doesn't matter. That will be the best decision if it is aligning with these four principles. Okay. So moving forward, so the first decision which Arjuna took is like, decision to challenge. So whenever life puts you in a particular situation, so what you can actually do is challenge that situation which is in front of you. Okay. Okay, something is making me upset. Something is making me frustrated because I am not able to achieve something. I am not able to achieve my goal. So that is the meaning, because it's you're getting upset or you're getting frustrated with some particular thing around you. So now go deeper and find out what is that particular thing which is making you upset, and is that aligning with your definition of success, right? So if you are not clear with what success means to you, then you can never set proper goals and you can never achieve your goals. That's how the life takes. If you don't know what success is, it's a big problem. You can make good decisions only if you are clear with the objective definition of success, what the scriptures give, right? We all can think, okay, this is successful if I finish my degree, or if I finish a job, or if I go on site from my job, or if I make X amount of money, or if I make this home, or if I give my kid this particular education. They're all correct, but that is not what Bhagavad Gita says is the ultimate goal of life, which makes the purpose of human life successful. So these are all the definitions of success which we have derived from people around us, seeing people around us, or hearing from people around us. So this is very, very important to understand, right? So there are so many things told around us. We are all coming from different social background. Yeah, we are all coming from different cultural background. So what's connecting us together is Bhagavad Gita, right? So when a lie is told very, very strongly, it becomes a so-called truth. And when that so-called truth is believed by so many people, then that becomes a tradition. And when it passed on to the next generation, it becomes a culture. So now culturally coming from different backgrounds, we may all have different definitions of success, seeing what our parents have done, what our ancestors have done. So now let's try to deconstruct everything, put it aside, okay, and then reconstruct this as per what Krishna is saying in Gita. So try to question, is your definition of success clear enough? So is this your definition of success, or is this someone else? After working so hard in life, after doing so many things, the worst thing what we can come and sit and realize is, oh my God, I have been working on somebody else's definition of success. This is exactly not what I want in life, right? So we have been influenced by so many factors. So that experience doesn't go waste, but all those experience, it will help you shape up into a different person from here. Is that a deeper definition of success? Take a break and meditate. Look deep into your heart. What exactly is making me unhappy? Why that thing is making me unhappy? Why am I attached to that particular thing and I'm letting that influence me so much? So these are some of the questions which you can ask yourself whenever you are in difficulty. So most importantly, why am I doing what I'm doing in life? What drove me? What is my motivation? How did I end up in this particular situation in the first place? So it's always good, right? Like when you take a break and when you start reflecting on these type of questions, and that will give you a deeper meaning of life. So disconnect yourself from all the external influences which is forcing you or pushing you to make a particular decision. You don't have to make a decision, or you don't have to immediately know the solution to a particular problem. Disconnect to connect. Take a break and then try to embrace that particular problem, reflect on your life experiences, and see what you can learn from that particular problem, and why did you end up here, and why is this a problem in the first place? What are my goals? Take a pen and take a paper and start writing. When you actually write, this is very, very important. When you actually sit and write down your problems from a subtle level in your mind, it manifests to a gross level on paper. When you act, that's why if you see a lot of mindfulness, a lot of career upliftment, personality development, coaching, everything, they put a lot of stress on journaling. So when you actually start writing, when you actually sit down, take 15 minutes every single day, reflect on how your day has been. When you start writing this particular journal, that is exactly you. End of the day, you don't have to share it with anybody. And that's why if you see most successful people, they maintain journals. And whenever you have a bad day, they maintain it in different color. They underline, they go deep into that particular day. Doesn't mean they are regretting why they had that day. They are documenting it because tomorrow when they have a bad day, they come and read those particular pages of different colors. How did they come out of that particular solution? So the solution for a particular problem can always lie in your past experiences as well. Whether we are taking time to sit and reflect on those experiences is the question. And when you sit and reflect on those experiences, we keep thinking, 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 thinking. At one point of time, we will lose our tolerance. The tension will keep building, and we will lose our tolerance, and we will start venting it out on somebody else around us. Okay, so now chapter 1, Arjuna says to Krishna, these are the verses where Arjuna decides to challenge that particular situation, right? So when he starts challenging, so any situation in front of you, so question on that particular situation. Don't accept it immediately, right? So Arjuna says, "Oh, infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies, so I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms." And text 23, he says, "Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra." So he is getting absorbed in that particular situation first. Okay, so this is the first principle which you have to follow in life, that every particular situation in front of you, validate it. if it is really, really applicable, if you really, really have to react to that particular situation. Okay. So the next principle, decision, he made a decision to consult, right? So see what we can learn from here. So what Arjuna did in Bhagavad Gita, right? So whenever we come in front of a problem, right, like we may know some things about us, okay? When we go and ask people, you might actually know something about yourself which you actually don't know, which somebody will be able to see through more clearly with a different lens, right? And when you actually read the scriptures, you will get to know something about yourself which you also don't know and which others also won't know. That is the beauty of the scriptures. That is what scriptures teach us. So when you start reading, you don't have to read 200 pages of Gita a day, just 2 pages. And you sit and reflect on that particular, it takes hardly 5 minutes or 10 minutes to read those 2 pages. Now sit and think on that particular 2 pages and see how you can apply that in your life. What are your experiences based on the concepts? That is where the learning is. So this is called as reflection. This is called as self-reflection. So that is where the actual essence of learning is. So when we come come to a particular point in life where this particular thing is challenging to me, this particular situation is challenging to me, so you are seeing through mostly through your senses and sentiments, right? Arjuna becomes sentimental. So after those verses, what happens? Arjuna starts thinking, okay, these are all my relatives. What will I achieve in life killing my own relatives? Right? So that is what Arjuna questions. So he is seeing through just his eyes and sentiments, which are completely material in nature. So when we consult others whom we take inspiration from, we try to see the consciousness of that particular person. So for all the material problems, we try to take scriptures, a scriptural view. We try to get spiritual solutions. Okay, so that's what Krishna teaches us in Bhagavad Gita. So for all the material problems, we try to find material solution, and the solution of the happiness lasts only for a certain amount of time, and that is not lasting long. So when we see through the eyes of the scriptures, so when we say decision to consult, we need to consult with somebody whose consciousness is elevated spiritually, who can guide us not from their experiences, but from scriptural teachings, which can be applied to everybody. So whatever my experiences, whatever were worked out for me, it is not necessary that it can work out for you. Now I'll have to synthesize it and say these are the principles I followed. I can take you through my journey, but whether those principles are applicable to you, that depends on your life experiences. But if you ask to somebody, take inspiration from people who are spiritually elevated. So when you go and consult with all the spiritually elevated people, they will help you see through the eyes of the scriptures. Okay. So such consultation takes you beyond your perspective, beyond your perception of reality, beyond your intelligence. So that is why, so say for example, whatever may seem a problem to you, in my view, it may not even be a problem. So where is the difference, right? It's just the difference in knowledge, which helps me perceive reality in a different way, and your knowledge helps you perceive reality in a different way, right? So now, chapter 2, this is what Arjuna says to Krishna. So how can we understand that decision to consult is the most appropriate principle? Because that is what Arjuna did. Text 7, Arjuna says, now I'm confused about my duty and I have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. So he's consulting Krishna. Now I am your disciple, a soul surrendered to you. He is drawing inspiration from Krishna. And he says, please instruct me. So what Prabhupada says, you should always have one person whom you can actually trust more than your mind. That is very, very important. All of us need to have one particular person whom we can trust more than our mind. Never trust, never fall prey to your mind. That's very, very important. And there is one more verse, text 8. He says, I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. So even he knows that he's going to win, but he completely forgot what is the purpose. Even that victory, he feels that is not going to suffice for making him happy, right? So this is what, when we consult, we will get to know different perspectives. Get always for material problems, try to seek scriptural or spiritual solutions. So Bhagavad Gita, so far, I know people like who's practicing Krishna consciousness for 50 years, and what they say is so far they have not come across any difficulties by themselves or from people around them who comes and ask them questions. So far, they have not found even one single problem which Gita cannot solve. These are the literal words. Be it material problem, be it spiritual problem, doesn't matter. So this is like our manual. Gita is like our manual. So say for example, you have a mobile device, right? And there is a hardware and there is a software. So your mind is like the software and your body is like the hardware. So on what principles you build your software, that is very, very important. So we know that we are not this body, we are the soul, correct? So, but at the same time, we also need to understand, just knowing this, you're not going to achieve anything. That is the starting step of spiritual life. Now, you need to understand much more deeper that your soul sees through the window of your mind, right? Your eyes are just like a window, okay? And your mind is actually seeing through this particular window. So these two together is called as a software. So if the software is not functioning properly, will you be happy with your mobile phone or your laptop? That is the whole point. So if your mind is perceiving reality with a different set of knowledge, then obviously what you see may not make you happy. It's a very simple concept. Contemplate on this. Very, very simple concept. So we need to always have a spiritual consciousness, and we need to always have guidance from people who are spiritually elevated. So the solution which they provide, or the solution which the scriptures provide, will still solve your problem. The solution will not, Krishna never said, Arjuna, no, this is all bogus, this is waste, you just go sit in the forest and meditate, you will still come and attain me. So that is, Krishna asked Arjuna to engage, not escape. Okay, so we need to trust Bhagavad Gita. So the first principle, what we saw is decision to challenge. And the second principle, what we see is consult. Okay, find and understand the ultimate goal of life and steer your actions. So when we consult, you will get to know a perspective of what your goal could have been, or what success could have been in this particular instance. So if we set goals wrongly, and if our definition of success is not clear, then obviously what we achieve is going to be a lot different from what we actually want. Right? We want, the soul is looking for happiness. It's not your body, right? The soul is actually seeking happiness through your body, right? So you do certain actions. Your mind instructs you to do certain actions, and you think that is actually making you happy. Now, certain actions, if certain things in life, it doesn't turn out the way you want it to be, then the soul is still seeking happiness, but you are acting in a different way, which is actually not giving you that particular happiness or contention, right? So, where to derive it from? That is completely depending on what vision you have, what you have set as your goals, and what you understand as purpose in life. All right. So, moving on to the third principle, Arjuna, he made a decision to connect. So whatever decisions, like the task of this particular human form of life, what we have, what we are actually living, as per Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna says is to cultivate pure spiritual consciousness. Right? How much ever wealth we accumulate, whatever we think that it's going to make us happy, end of the day, you're born with nothing. And while living, you can take nothing. But in between, you're living for 90, 95 years. Right? And out of that, 30% of your life, you're sleeping. So apply that 8-8-8 rule. 8 hours in your life, you're sleeping. 8 hours in your life, you're working. This is bare minimum you'll have to do to maintain your body. So now in between 8 hours, what are you doing? How are you utilizing that 8 hours to cultivate spiritual consciousness? You may have to give time to your parents, you may have to give time to your friends, you may have to give time to your family. So what Arjuna did is whatever, yes, I have to give time to everybody, I have to perform my duties, I've taken this family, I have my kids to take care of, and I have to function. So I can actually purify my actions. Right? If I cultivate a spiritual consciousness, and then whatever I act, it will be aligned to the ultimate goal of life. Okay? So end of the life, you are meant to go back to the spiritual world. This is the ultimate goal of life. And we'll be seeing Bhagavad Gita verses where Krishna says this. So keep in mind, I keep repeating this, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Above this planet Earth, there are 7 higher planets and there are 7 lower planets. Depending on whether you do good, you go above. If you do bad, you go below. But if that good is not connected to the highest goal of life, which is God, Krishna, then you accumulate nice good karma, you go there, you enjoy, and then once that karma is exhausted, it's like a bank account. You'll have to come back here. And then you'll again have to learn to understand who is God, and only then you'll be able to go to the spiritual world. So there are n number of material worlds. So what Srimad Bhagavatam, even Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there are like millions of material planets. So either if after this particular birth, depending on your desire, you might take birth in a different material planet. You might take birth in a different world. So there are different universes. There are parallel universes. Srimad Bhagavatam gives a beautiful study of all how this world is created. How many universes are there? There are like millions of universes. We are just one in a one tiny universe. So if you have a particular disconnect with these two concepts in your heart, then that is what is resulting in the frustration what you're going through. So if you see you have a problem in front of you, which means there is a slight disconnect between what you want in life and what Gita says is actually life. How big is the disconnect? That will say you how big you perceive this as a problem. Very, very simple. So what Arjuna did is I'll make sure that each and every action I perform or each and every decision I make in life, it is aligning with the ultimate purpose of life, which is to go back to spiritual world. So this is the third principle which you have to adopt. Okay. So now let's see, the verses. And another one more good important point is don't give up what you want most for what feels good now. So when you say you, who are you? You are this particular Atma. You are the soul. You're not this particular body. So most often we forget what the soul wants and we focus on what the body wants. And we are not to be blamed because that is what the education system teaches us in all the countries. They teach how to make money and how to grow. What they show as growth is not what actually growth is. Growing in your consciousness from material to spiritual consciousness, that is the definition of growth, what Krishna says in Gita. So we all have to perform certain functions to exist in this particular world. And that is why we are performing that, and government is just facilitating that via the education system based on what they define as needs for that particular country. So getting ourselves too absorbed. So we'll have to be conscious about this fact. Okay, and we should not get too engrossed or attached. Right. So before starting of this session, I was asking people, okay, how many of you read Gita? 2 pages a day. But everybody was so busy. I don't blame you guys for that. That is how the world around us has taught us to perceive reality. We're not able to pull out time for what actually we want the most, nourishing the soul. We are just nourishing our body so far. So far, the life, whatever we have been living, is just bodily conscious. So, if we are soul conscious, if we are Atma conscious, if we are conscious of who Krishna is, then every day in that 8 hours, you will take out some time to nourish your soul, to purify your consciousness, and to cultivate spiritual consciousness. So when you take out that time and integrate that as a part of your lifestyle, integrate spirituality as a part of your lifestyle, which means each and every action you do is connected to the ultimate goal of life. Okay, the ultimate goal of life is to go back to the spiritual world. We are all spiritual beings. Okay, so when you say, tell a baby this is fire, don't touch, will a baby listen? Absolutely not. So it goes, we will let you go, we let go touch the fire. So sometimes we know, but even if you're not there at home, and the baby will be so curious to try out different things. So it'll definitely, if you tell 10 things don't do, it'll end up doing at least one thing which we say don't do. So that is how we came here. Krishna tried to convince us so much back in the spiritual world. And we were like, no, even we want to be God, even I want to be God, and I want to go and enjoy. And Krishna says, Tatastu, please go and enjoy and come. But I'll be there seated in your heart as Paramatma. And whenever you want, through the process of bhakti, you can establish a relationship with the super soul sitting in your heart. And then the path is always there. And whenever you choose to take, and I will guide you. That is what Krishna is telling to Arjuna. So when Krishna never said, even before the Mahabharata war, Krishna and Arjuna, they used to hang out as buddies. Arjuna never cared whether Krishna is God or even forgot. And Krishna never gave advices unless and until Arjuna came and asked. That is the soul and the super soul, Atma and Paramatma. So the third principle, what we're learning today is any decision that we take in our life must be connected to the ultimate goal of life. Okay, which is to get out of the cycle of birth and death. And in between whatever activities you do, make sure that these activities are connected directly or indirectly for that particular purpose. You may already be doing those activities correctly, but if you're not doing it consciously, then it is a problem. You might be following whatever your parents are saying. Already your life must be 75 or 80% aligned to what Krishna says in Gita. But you may not be knowing, "Ah, this is why my parents said this. This is why I'm supposed to do this." But end of 3 years, right now I'm in a very favorable position because of my parents. Now, how can I make use of my position to practice bhakti and reorient my life to what Krishna says as purpose of life? So this is how I'm actually thinking. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita teaches you how to think. Okay, so now what are the verses which we can see? Chapter 8, Krishna says a lot about this. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, when we die, whatever we think in our mind, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. There are Shastric stories. If some person, there is an example of Bharat Maharaj in our Srimad Bhagavatam. At the time of thinking, he was so elevated in bhakti. He almost went to the forest and I repeated this, I'm repeating the story, I said this in the previous class. He almost went to the forest in search of, peace and meditation, and he was so elevated. And finally, he got attached to a deer. So when he was dying, he was thinking about the deer and he took birth as a deer. So when you're dying, if you're thinking about your father or your mother or your son or daughter or your grandfather or grandmother, whatever, then, okay, you will take birth accordingly, according to your attachment. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty. So whatever activities you're doing, do it in the right consciousness, thinking that it as a opportunity which Krishna has given for you to purify your existence through human form of life. That is the understanding. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you attain me without doubt. So if we are able to think of Krishna, so what scriptures say when you die, it's given in one of the Puranas. My mentor used to say this, that when you die, the pain will be like 1,000 scorpions stinging you at the same place. That is how painful death will be. So we cannot avoid that pain, but we can build strength, we can build resilience to fix our mind on Krishna so that he will make it easy. At the same time, we can also leave the cycle of birth and death. We can go back to the spiritual world according to how we want to love Krishna. There are various moods. You can love Krishna as a son, or as a parent, or as a friend, or as a lover. Depending on your mood, you will go to a particular spiritual planet where Krishna is existing in that form, and accordingly, you will also be given a spiritual form where you can enjoy unlimited enjoyment, where you're not bound by time, where you're not bound by karma. Okay. So now moving on to the next verse. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path. He, O Partha, is sure to reach me. Again, Krishna confirms this. Back to back verses. One should meditate on the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything. The Supreme Person is the one who knows everything, he who is the oldest, the controller, the smaller than the smallest. That is how he goes inside every single atom as well. Who is the maintainer of everything beyond all material conception, beyond this entire universe, who is inconceivable, which means we won't be able to perceive with our mind and senses. We need to perceive it from a disciplic succession through people who are spiritually elevated, who is always a person. He is also a person just like us. He has a spiritual body, a spiritual form. A lot of people say that God is an energy, but clearly Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita. He is always a person. We have limited capability from our senses, right? We can eat with our hands, but Krishna can eat with his eyes. He can sing with his ears. So all his senses can perform all his activities. So we are a part and parcel, right? A part means we have certain qualities of God. A parcel means we are a complete unit, right? So when we go back to spiritual world, we retain our identity, okay, and we retain our form. That does not mean will a part and parcel of God doesn't mean that when we go back, the parcel can never become the complete form of God. We are not gods. We are just part and parcel, right? So love means exchange of relationships between two persons. So if you want to experience unlimited love, you will have a certain amount of satisfaction knowing that, okay, everything is consciousness. God is a form of energy. Yes, that is one way of perceiving God, but that is not the most perfect way what the Shastras is saying. Depending on your understanding of God, that much amount of happiness you get. So the ultimate conclusion of the Shastras, the ultimate conclusion of Vedas, Vedanta is Vaishnavism, which means God is a person. That is the essence of Vedas, right? So, but all the other understanding, when you can stand in a railway track and you can say that train is coming just by hearing the horn sound. Yes, you may be right. And some people can say that train is coming when they're seeing the floodlights or the lights of the train. They are also correct. And some people will say train has come just once they see the train in the platform. So it is all different perception of the same reality. Every understanding is to take you a step closer to Krishna. Okay, and the last verse on this topic: one who at the time of death fixes his life hat between the eyebrows by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord. Full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the whole life is to prepare to die properly so that we can live properly in the spiritual world. Dying is the day worth living for. So this is a very, very famous dialogue from one of the Clint Eastwood movies, but this is how I understood that particular dialogue, right? When we apply that here, this is how when we start, understanding Gita, behind every goodness, you see Krishna's presence, right? So this resonates, that Clint Eastwood movie dialogue resonates with this particular verse. Dying is the day worth living for. So we all have to die properly so that we can live properly. Right? So in everything around you, when your consciousness is purified, you start seeing Krishna in everything around you. Okay? So, and finally, after the last principle which we have to adopt is, once we understand the teachings of Gita, accept that particular lifestyle. Right? Be courageous. There is nothing to be shameful of. You are purifying your existence. You are purifying your consciousness. We are all here to learn. So we don't have to be fearful for making any decisions if you follow these four principles. And if each and everything, if you have decided to adopt these four principles, you can take whatever risk you want. You will definitely 100% you will emerge successful. There is no doubt. This framework is given by Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita. Whether are we having a pure consciousness with pure intention to follow this particular thing is the question. Then, you know, most of us, we don't make decisions depending, on our dream. We make decisions driven by the fear what we have. But people who are actually fearless, who make decisions, are not people who actually don't have fear. I have so much of fear, but my purpose in life is higher than my fear. So, if you see all successful people, they will always have a very, very dignified or a very, very high purpose, which helps them overcome any type of fear they have. But they won't be able to last long in that particular journey unless it is connected to Krishna. They will face challenges, they will face bottlenecks, they will face troubles. But if you are connected to Krishna, then Krishna guarantees, right? When you are chanting the Maha Mantra, which means you are inviting Krishna to come and be a part of your life, to guide you. That is the meaning, right? So if your intention is pure, right, then accordingly you will see the results in your life. So this mantra is actually, any Vedic mantra or Shastric mantra is transcendental. Transcendental means which is beyond this material platform, on the spiritual realm, right? So when I say spiritual realm, you have a television, right? How do you tune in? If you want to see something, you take a remote and tune in and see different channels depending on the mood you have. Right? Similarly, you can tune your consciousness also. And the remote for tuning is the scriptures. So when you tune in your consciousness by accepting a spiritual lifestyle, then you can see Krishna's presence in your life in every single day. Right? So this is simple, simple logic, simple analogy. I'm giving you real-time examples. So, and then if you make that decision with sincerity, right, with consultation, definitely Krishna will be protecting you. And at the same time, if you see, your mind will choose the very, very least resistance path. So after the next session, we'll be going through how to control our mind, right? So only if we have a controlled mind at the time of difficulty, we'll be able to adopt all these four principles and think through. So that's why next what we'll be learning is, or what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, how to control the mind. So when I say mind chooses the least resistance path, so we all look for temporary happiness. You know, we forget what we want the most to go back to Krishna. Instead, we just choose to do what makes us happy now. Right? We all seek happiness, but from temporary sources or material objects. So, what verses Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, and he says at the last, when you go to a doctor, and doctor will say these are the treatment options, he'll never tell you what to do. Now, we will ask the doctor, what is your recommendation? So, similarly, Arjuna asks Krishna, what is your recommendation? And Krishna says, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage to me. Thus, you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So he is always existing in our heart as Paramatma. Abandon all varieties. So this is the most famous verse, right? He says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me, accept me, integrate me inside your lifestyle. Adopt these four principles, right? Very easy principles. Adopt these four principles in your life, and every decision you make will be a fantastic decision. And finally, he says, do not fear, because he is directly, I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. He is making a promise here, and he is the supreme personality, unlimited in wealth, beauty, knowledge, everything. And he is making a promise here. And he is so powerful that he can fulfill all his promises if provided we follow the principles of Gita correctly. All right. So after adopting these four principles, so this is one of very important shloka, chapter 8, verse 15. And Krishna says it's very, very important to understand after attaining me, which means after integrating your life with Krishna conscious principles, the great souls who are the yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world. So this is why the Krishna makes promise after going back to Krishna, we don't come back to this particular world. And now he gives the definition of this particular world, the temporary world, which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. So he says this world is Dukkhalayam Ashasvatam. Return to this temporary world which is full of miseries. That is the definition of this particular world. And this is the purport what our Acharya say. Okay, so this is the last slide for today. Let's go through this purport. Since this temporary material world is full of the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, till now nobody has solved this problem. Naturally, he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet, Krishna, in his topmost form as the cowherd boy, is in Goloka. Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, does not wish to return. He who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, does not wish to return. The supreme planet is described in Vedic scriptures, literatures as Avyakta and Akshara and Paramagati. In other words, the planet is beyond our material vision. And it is explicable, but it is the highest goal, the destination for all the Mahatmas, the great souls. Who are the great souls? Who are adopting to a Krishna conscious lifestyle. The Mahatmas receive transcendental messages from the realized devotees. So when you consult, you receive transcendental, means spiritual messages from the realized devotees, and thus gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness and become so absorbed in transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation to any material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. Right? So, whatever, when we integrate a Krishna conscious lifestyle, which means all my actions are for the satisfaction of Krishna, right? So he has given me this particular life, he has given me this particular family. What am I boasting for? Right? So if I integrate this into a proper lifestyle, whatever actions I do is for his satisfaction. And if you come to this understanding, your life will be so happy that you don't care about liberation as well. You don't care about going to spiritual planet as well. It doesn't matter. There is no definition of sadness in your life because each and every situation, say for example, we all know the story of Prahlada and Narsinghadev, right? It's a classic example, right? What all tortures, you go to Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto or Skanda 7, right? I think chapter 14 or something, not exactly sure. So it's very clearly given, the tortures what Hiranyakashipu did to Prahlad Maharaj, right? To Prahlada, to Bhakta Prahlada, whatever tortures is, he tries to throw him inside fire. But he was just a small kid. Now, this is a perfect example of taking up spirituality at a young age as well. He was such a small kid, right? But his devotion to bhakti to Krishna was very, very pure. So even after going through so much of difficulties, Prahlada took the risk to go to Krishna at every difficulty. And we know the result, right? The Lord is purchased by the love of the devotees. You can purchase Lord only with love. Else he doesn't care, basically. Depending on the fraction of love, so Krishna can be purchased with love. This is Prahlada Maharaj is the brilliant example. So this verse specifically mentions the personalist devotees of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So this word talks about the Mahatmas. After attaining me, the great souls, if you see here, the great souls. So which means people whoever has adopted Krishna conscious lifestyle. Okay, so this is a very, very important shloka. So how to approach problematic situations in our life? So this pretty much what I said already. Rather than seeing ahead, see how far you have reached in life. Think of a time whenever you have problems. Think of a time when you went through a painful challenge or difficulty. Reflect on how your life has evolved since that particular time. How did you come out of that? The answers to today's problems is there in yesterday's mistakes. Very, very important. Identify 3 positive things that came out of it. You know, at least you might learn many things, but make sure you identify at least 3 things. Those are the key lessons or artifacts that you carry in your life. Think of an uncomfortable situation or problem that you're currently facing, maybe whatever you're going through. Reflect why you are experiencing this problem. And we said, go back, keep asking why, meditate deeper in your heart, why that thing is putting me into sadness, right? Find out if that is aligning with what Gita is saying as purpose. How disconnected, how much disconnect are we? How much disconnected are we? What lessons you can learn from it? And if you learn these lessons, how would your life will improve? Right? So you all have all these realizations. So I'll stop here. Any questions? Now time for questions. Any questions you guys have based on whatever we saw with resilience, right? So the next class will be a complete wrap up of how much more practically deeply you can apply these concepts. Any questions from anybody based on your experiences? Whether are these principles resonating with you? So what are the 4 C's we saw? Who can tell me the 4 C's? Marty, what's the first one? Just the first one.
I don't remember actually. Sorry.
What's the first one? What would Arjuna do? Challenge, right? Challenge the situation which is in front of you. He challenges, he takes his chariot and goes in between, prays Krishna to go in between both the armies. He's challenging you. Think why you are doing what you are currently doing. We all know what to do. We all have a methodology how, but we always forget the why part. So what's the second one? Nabya, what's the second C? Challenge. And after that, consult, right? We consult with somebody who is spiritually elevated. And the third C, Shreya, what's the third C? You remember what is the third C? Challenge, consult, connect. So connect all your actions to the ultimate goal of life. And the fourth C is be courageous, right? Be confident, be courageous of whatever you're doing. So these principles, if you adopt these principles in your life, then whatever decision you take will be successful. And how? Because Krishna promises himself. So any questions from whatever we learned? By the way, who's the sunflower?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Who is this?
Oh, my name is Robina, but
Okay.
in
Okay, okay.
in here,
Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so let's go one by one. So, Katie, what are your takeaways from today's session? What have you learned? Couple of lines.
Yeah, sure. So as usual, it's a very wonderful session indeed. And today's session was all about resilience, building resilience, like how can we deal with adversities? How can we come back to shape when there are adversities? And basically it's about the four C's that we have discussed. Krishna doesn't order Arjuna, or he doesn't explain what is right or wrong. Rather, by Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches us how to think, and that's exactly what he has, like taught Arjuna as well.
Mhm.
And when Arjuna forgets himself with the issues, he behaves as a chastiser of enemies and surrenders himself at the lotus feet of the spiritual master.
Mhm.
And due to his impatience, while he has lost his focus, and so